It's sad that I have to actually defend this generation from itself. You know, it's expected that the older generation is going to bash the younger one. But men are so self-loathing that they even bash themselves. Now, here's a case, someone's reading someone who's 20 years old, right? And I'm going to have to defend him from himself. Let's hear it.
Around my age, I've noticed stunted growth of this generation, specifically men, on a wide scale. You could
Stunted growth. A translation, they can't get the girl. That's all guys mean by stunted growth.
point to many things that demonstrate the arrested development of this generation.
Arrested development, he can't get the girl, right? The guy wins the lottery and stays at home all day, every day, playing video games while having a hot wife. He's considered a success. He's considered grown up. So remember what this is all about, getting the girl. That's, you see, men being childish means they just haven't achieved female validation.
Men dropping out of the labor force, the
No, no, no. Men aren't dropping out of the labor force. They're being ejected from it. Machines are taking over, and the easy jobs are being swept up by the women. So this guy can't even frame his issues correctly.
college entrance rates being 60% women, 40% men, and the grad
Yeah, well, that's because the colleges are anti-male, right? Also, guys have to consider, do I have the money to pay for it? And can I deal with the debt? These women who take up these courses, a lot of women who enter colleges, they end up wasting their money on useless courses because they're not worried about the debt. They eventually find a man to pay for it.
graduation rates being even more skewed at 70-30. Some people say these men are avoiding college or dropping out to pursue some greater ambition.
Well, some guys are jumping into the trades, right? Because it's a shortcut. It takes less money. You can get into the workforce easier and quicker. And then you can bribe the girl. And then you can be considered a grown man, right?
Like starting a business. And while that may be the case for some, it was probably the idea for most of them. Let's just be honest, a lot of these guys are just fucking off. Less people are getting dry.
Well, not fucking off. This is a 20-year-old man writing this. They're not fighting off, fucking off. They're being held back by society who doesn't like them because of the sex they were born. See, even 20-year-old guys can't even frame it properly. They can't help it but blame men for something that someone else is doing to them.
Driver's licenses. You could point to the rate of single men.
Did he mention driver's license? I'm backing that up. He's on a
Honest, a lot of these guys are just fucking off. Less people are getting driver's licenses.
if you can't afford to own a car, there's no point in you getting a driver's license. Now, is there? Right.
You could point to the rate of single men and lonely men with no brotherhood. This is something I talk about a lot in other videos, so I'm not going to go into depth in the statistics, but having human relationships is a big part of growing up.
So if you're childish, you don't have human relationships? So how do you explain children? Hanging around with their other little buddies, like little boys, having fun with their pals. See, whoever wrote this, it doesn't make any bloody sense.
Learning how to grow and maintain connections and provide value. This is true for
This is bullshit. Maintain connections. This is hyper agency too. Men have no control over the fact that other men, their male buddies, grow up and leave them. They have no control over that.
platonic relationships, but it's also true for romantic as well. It's a part of maturing, but a lot of men don't even get there.
So having friends, but how come women, so women are born mature? All these little girls have little girlfriends, and when they grow up, they still maintain them? Do you see how the word maturity is abused?
Their foot in the door now. This arrested development is also demonstrated by Gen Z's obsession with escapism and fantasy.
No, 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 no. These guys are simply enjoying what they enjoy, period. Right? The the loser who finally, got selected by a leech and spends his entire lifetime just working away in a dead-end job to keep her around. He isn't mature. He's just a loser. He's simply a man who can't do what he wants. He can't be one of these guys. He'd love to be one of these guys. He would love to say, I'm married to this woman and she supports me 100%. And when she's off with her girlfriends, I'm out with my guy friends doing this, right? Look how happy these guys are. Hey, dude, whoever wrote this, or in this case, Gilbert, why would you show this scene right here if you're trying to make a point? These guys are happy doing what they're doing. And it seems like there's women in the background. Are these women losers?
And it's cool if you like these sort of things, but the amount of people I
Well, no, it isn't cool. You're spitting on them for doing this. You're spitting on men because they can't get the girl, right? Even though it's out of their hands.
see make it damn near their whole personality is crazy. And this is because community is dying. And
No, no, no. There, before this all happened, right? There have always been guys who are sports fanatics who made their whole identity about being fans of the Celtics, right? Or the Knicks or whatever. And that's fine, right? That was the older generations, and that was fine. So it's always about, can these guys get the girl or not, right? Community is dying. Yeah. Surplus males get booted out, right? So the community isn't dying. You're just being rejected.
and culture alongside it. Nobody has a real sense of self anymore. When I look around at young people my age, a lot of them are submerged in this escapism, whether it be anime, video games, the hub, weed.
I'm going to correct you on something. Years and years ago, uh, my aunt, one of my aunts, stayed with us for a while until she got on her feet. I forget why. I think she broke up with a guy or something like that, but she stayed with us for a few months. And she would read romance novels. She was in her early 40s during the time. No one considered her a loser who got into escapism, even though romance novels are all escapism for women. And she wasn't 20, she was 40, right? So how do you explain this? She's from an older generation, right? She indulges in escapism that women always do, and it's fine for everyone. She's not a loser. She still has community, etc., right?
And other drugs, usually a combination of most of these things. It's what they spend most of their time doing, and in a way, it's kind of what they live for. This is also sort of connected to.
Well, they don't have any choice, right? Because once they get deselected from the girls, and once their guy friends leave them, right? Once their guy friends leave them, that's what they've got left, right? Exactly. Here's maturity. I'm reaching retirement age, right? What do retired people have to accept? We gotta have to accept that we're no longer part of the workforce. The kids have grown up and moved away, and we're all lonely due to that. And our physical health is draining, and we just accept these things, right? But why is that acceptance acceptable, right? Because the older generation got the girl. And so now this issue, people see it pragmatically. Yeah, you just have to deal with the new life you've got as a retiree, as an elderly person, as a senior citizen. But you can't do it as a young man, right? You can't say, hey, the world has changed. It's out of my hands, right? So this is the first day of the rest of my life. Now, where do I go to from here, right?
Rampant consumerism, which is childish Being obsessed with fantasy is a child.
Shut up. Rampant consumerism. And it's childish. Well, the average woman loves shopping, doesn't she? There's there's no greater rampant consumer than the average woman. So, according to you, the average woman is childish, right? But they're never considered not grown up, are they?
Trait. This isn't to say that all Zoomers are like grown-up children. I know a lot of people that are making good progress. They're growing up. They're
Good progress. In other words, they managed to get their high status job or well-paying job at least, and they're getting a girl. That's it. Even the family in the house just means getting the girl. The house is a bribe to get the woman. Having children just means the woman has said yes, and so you're able to have them. That's all it means. Growing up is just euphemism for I got female validation.
they're doing good, but it's a scary amount. And a lot of these guys who live this sort of lifestyle, they're really smart too.
Oh, really? They're really smart. Right, exactly. So it's obvious that this has nothing to do with their personal qualities, right? They're really smart, but society has turned against them and won't allow them to gain their wealth, and the women aren't interested in them because they never were, right? But blame them, right?
Like they had a lot of potential, but it's
Yeah, they had a lot of potential to get the girl, and they didn't make it.
just it's over now. I'm 20, but I haven't
Wow, it's over now. I can't get a woman in my life. My life is over. You have to be a loser to say that. I don't have a girl in my life. My life is far from over. I'm pushing 60. My life is far from over. I love my life. I love the fact that I don't have anyone leeching off me, that I can just get up in the morning, put on the coffee, get on the computer, do what I like and watch what I like. I'm really living the life of Riley right now. You have to be a complete failure in life not to appreciate the things that you have.
really lived that much for my age in terms of experience, which, as I talked about earlier, slows down time, especially when compared to someone like my great grandfather when he was 20 years old, who, while
Yeah, well, your grandfather was in a different era. There's still hard work going on. The machines didn't take over entirely. So the women clung to the men. He got himself a leech, right? And you didn't have social media that gave people an option. If people wanted to socialize, they actually had to get together with one another. But social media is just showing you that people aren't interested in being with one another in the first place, which tells you that community was always a farce to begin with. It was always forced to a certain degree.
being technically the same age as me, would have already lived way more and kind of longer.
Hey, he didn't live more, right? His life was effectively boring next to yours. Your grandfather couldn't hop on the internet and find out what was going on in the world like we are now. In a way, I'm more connected to people than I ever was back in my childhood. You didn't have an inner circle like when I was young. You had nothing, right?
He experienced more growth, more character development. There are even arguments.
Really. Notice, guys, there's never any details. Character development, character like what, right? In the end, this is all going to boil down to he got himself a wife. That's why there are no actual qualities spoken about.
Arguments rooted in physiognomy that claim men today look younger and more childlike than men of.
We're living better, dude. This is why I'm talking about Guys not appreciating what they've got. I actually have always looked young for my age. And a lot of it is because the early generations, take the guys who grew up and went to World War II. They were teenagers and they went into war. By the time they got back out, they were aged, right? It's not that we're not maturing. We just have better food. We have easier lives for the most part on a physical level. So of course we look younger. And this guy's framing it as a bad thing. He's the type of guy who would sell off 20 years of his life to get the girl and say, there, I got the girl. So that's being mature.
Of previous generations, because this lack of experience and responsibility can manifest itself in your physical appearance, which is
Responsibility. What makes you think that men aren't held responsible? You're holding your generation responsible for things that are out of their control. And actually, it's aging them. Because I'm in the position I am, that is the mental position of saying, no, I love my life. I'm going to remain looking younger than you. By the time you're my age, you will be a worn out old man.
debatable, but it's an interesting concept. You could also point to the home ownership rates and the amount of people still living with their parents, which is mainly
Who cares? The extended family in the past was not normal. People used to live with their parents in the past all the time, right? So this measurement of living with your parents just means you don't have a house to bribe a woman leech into your life. She doesn't love you. She's leeching off you. And that's your big and only goal to say that you've succeeded in life and your life is worthwhile. All right. And society world over full of miserable divorced men. And because that's where the housewife leech comes from. Or the leech period. She doesn't have to be a housewife. She's going to leech off you somehow. That's where the fake love leads, right? If you want to be a lemming, go ahead, be a lemming. But don't try and say that that's the better way to live, to me.
an economic issue. I'm not going to blame that on video games or whatever.
Really? So there you go. Right? You know that society is turned on men, right? It has nothing to do with their enjoyment of video games, right? So stop putting hyper agency on the men.
And in other cultures, they do that anyway. I moved out and I kind of regret it. But the truth is, a lot
You moved out and you regret it? I thought that was a good thing. It built your character.
of these people who are living with their parents also just happen to be not doing shit. After graduating from high school and
Are they not doing shit, or have they been blocked out of the education system and the workforce? If they've been blocked out, then it's not it's not the case of them not doing shit. They're not allowed to do shit.
not going to university, I didn't really consider how much it would isolate me. The truth is, college has sort of monopolized socialization for young people.
If it has, all it means, dude, is that your male friends didn't want anything to do with you once they got a certain age. You admitted in this video that you had all these friends and they moved out. At a certain age, they all went to the four winds. They went to college, they got their jobs, and they found their girl, and they circled their entire lives around this woman, right?
And I talked about this a little bit on my second channel. That video didn't even get a whole lot of views compared to my other ones, but the amount of people who sent me emails that were resounding with it showed me how true it is. It sucks because college now for many people isn't a smart financial decision unless you have some sort of scholarship or financial aid, or you're really hell-bent on becoming an
Right. So you're saying you have to spend huge amounts of money to hang around with friends. Right. Just goes to show you again that people don't want to be around you. You're going into debt, not to get yourself educated, but to have a group of people to be with.
Accountant. If you graduate high school, you start going straight to a trade, straight to the professional world. You're going out doing all these things by yourself. You look around and everyone's older than you. And you find out quickly how atomized, how individualized people are, how
Exactly. And you said these are older men's, right? So it has nothing to do with the internet. It has nothing to do with the fact that like men just don't want to be with men, right? If guys wanted to hang around other guys, they just would. And if women wanted to be around with men, they just would. People just aren't, they don't like men, not interested in hanging with us.
hard it is to find a community. I just thought that's something I'd mention for anybody graduating high school or about to graduate high school. Uh, you know, if you're not going to go to college, you gotta weigh that in. You gotta understand that you'll probably isolate yourself because a lot of your
No, you're not isolating yourself. There's more hyper agency, everyone. No, the world is rejecting you. The world is isolating you. You've got to get this framing properly. Don't take the blame for what other people do as a man. Again, that's that responsibility that's supposed to build character, right? You're taking responsibility for something that you're not responsible for, and you can't. You can't take responsibility for what other people do to you, right? And it's not building character because you say, hey, dude, I'm still childlike, right? I still haven't gotten female validation, so I'm still a child.
friends are probably going, your social circle is going to split apart, and there's not going to be a group of young people around you anymore. You'll go outside and everybody's 40. I was talking to my parents the other day at lunch, asking them about when they were my age. They're in their 60s now. My parents were dating when they were 19.
Yeah, yeah. Women were still willing to use men in that way, on an individual level. And now many young girls who are 19, if they have any looks at all, go on OnlyFans and say, yeah, I get all the male attention I want, and I'm getting free money, and I don't have to touch these got losers or be near them or anything. Right? Your grandmother would be part of that group if she was born much later in life. If she was 19, she'd be doing just like all the other 19-year-olds do.
I've never been in a relationship. I've only fooled around with girls I couldn't care less about. They talk
Really? You haven't been in a relationship? So I thought this was about being grown up and accepting responsibility. What I tell you guys, this is all about getting the girl and nothing else.
talked about all these people they met when they were my age that I now know today. They were telling me these stories, and it all just seems so natural. Like they didn't have to think twice about it. And I felt uncomfortable in comparison because none of these
Yeah, it all seems so natural. What are we young guys doing wrong? Well, society changed to the point where it can show its true colors. People do not like men, therefore they don't like you. And they can reject you now in a way they couldn't in the past. They didn't like your grandfather either. He was a bum like you and me. It's just that women had to wear the mask. And so this guy was living in fantasy land. You think guys weren't in the fantasies? At least the guys who are in the fantasy now know they're in the fantasies, the guys who are into anime and shit. Your grandfather was living the fantasy. He didn't realize he was in a fantasy. He actually thought your grandmother liked him as a human being.
things happen to me. And I'm similar to my parents. I'm genetically them. What sucks
Well, there you go. See, I'm genetically them. I'm similar to my parents, and yet things change for you. So it's not within you that you have failed. It's the outside world that's failed you.
is that I'm overthinking about all this shit to a degree that makes me weird. That my dad.
You're overthinking? The reason why you're overthinking is because you know there's nothing you can do to change anything. You are not in charge. You have no choice.
Never had to think about. I've gone through all these phases, self-improvement, reading all these books.
Self-improvement just means gaining status. Gaining status and getting a girl, right?
Devising a plan to stop touching my worm and looking at hentai.
Okay. You need a plan to kill your own enjoyment. Self-loathing of male sexuality. Women have vibrators, dude, and they use them whenever they feel like it. So you're worried about not masturbating? Like, this is pathetic.
You know, black pill, jawline, can't thou tilt. It's like, geez, man, how.
Okay, I've said everything I need to say. If he's reading, I don't know if he's reading his own thoughts or if this is another guy that he's reading out. But this person is a loser. This is what it is to be a loser in life, right here. It's not getting the girls, it's blaming yourself. It's two things. One is living your life to get the girl. It's a total waste of your humanity. And two, it's taking the blame for what other people do to you. Self-loathing. Like, young guys, get off this track. I don't have a woman in my life. Don't want one. My life is 10 times better for it. And I have self-respect. I hope when you come out, you'll say, from this video, say, hey, this guy does have character. His personal integrity, his own self-worth. I want that for myself, right? Okay, so there you go. We'll end it here.